Hey guys, Nanomachines, and we're taking a look at another Transformers trading card game deck profile. And this time we have Dinobots. Dinobots, of course, plays Grimlock, Sludge, and Snarl, and they're one of my favorite archetypes. Tanks might take the cake, but Dinobots, it's just so close to my heart. Because they're so unique. They have a very interesting strategy. You see, bold in this game is something that allows you to flip extra cards on the top card of your deck. So if you have bold 2, you flip 2 more. If you have bold 3, flip 3. If you have bold 5, you flip 5 more. And of course, like everything else in this game, bold stacks. So when you have bold 5, bold 3, bold 2, you're starting to get the picture. The Dinobots themselves somewhat center around Grimlock, as they should. Grimlock is a very good card. His vehicle mode is, well, Dino mode, I guess you could say, his T-Rex mode, is kind of lackluster on the stats, which I'm kind of surprised at, but it has a very good ability in that it grants another one of your Dinobots plus 3 bold, which means no matter what bold they're at that moment, you can give them even more. Everything in this list can pretty much give bold at a moment's notice, and Grimlock is no different. Another thing you might notice is he is a leader, which means that you can use the matrix of leadership in this list, which I do. But the best part about Grimlock is his robot mode. In his robot mode, he has the ability to use leftover damage from your knockout hits. For instance, you just knocked out someone who had 2 HP remaining with 8 damage. Normally, that 6 damage would just be poof, gone. No matter how much damage you did, as long as they were knocked out, that extra damage would just do nothing. Grimlock, however, has the ability to use that damage and put it on another one of your opponent's characters. Of course, your opponent chooses which character, but if you overkill something with 7 damage overkill, they're going to be very hard-pressed to find something they want to put that damage on. And when you're flipping a ton of bold cards off the top of your deck, you're going to be doing a lot of overkill. Snarl is one of the most important cards to this archetype, mostly because of his Stegosaurus mode. This thing, despite being cool because it's a Stegosaurus, can draw you cards after you discard your hand. And I'll tell you why you'll be discarding your hand once I get to the deck, but Snarl saves you from dead drawing out of the game. Snarl is fantastic at just saving you from just never having a hand size larger than 1 for the rest of the game. He's fantastic. But that's just his vehicle mode, his Dino mode. His robot mode is also very good because he is one of the higher damaging characters in your list, but also he has the ability to rig your top deck when you attack. So if you have a card like Makeshift Armor, where it's a 2 orange pip, you can attack with Snarl and put that card from your hand on top of your deck, and then mill it for your attack and give yourself plus 2 damage. It's a great effect. And even though it doesn't replace that card from your hand, it's still just a fantastic, fantastic way to get cards you don't care about into your discard pile and still amplify your damage. And help rig whether or not you're going to be doing a little damage or a lot. Finally, we have one of the best characters in this deck, Sludge. Sludge is the healer of the group, one might say. Sludge, with his, what is this, a Camarasaurus? Either way, he has a sauropod as his vehicle mode. And when you flip to it from your robot mode, you get to move as many damage counters from one of your Dinobots to Sludge. And if you notice, he has a lot of health in order to take as much damage as possible. You won't be attacking with this guy that much, but that is a fantastic effect that can completely turn around an engagement. You can attack with Grimlock first. He can soak up all of their attacks, and you can move them from him to Sludge. And something else that's very important is that he's a specialist. Now, specialists have very special support, and I'll get into that in a little. But the second best part about him is his robot mode. See, even in his robot mode, he's still healing your other characters. Whenever they attack, they get to heal 1 damage counter from one of your Dinobots, which is, frankly, a great ability. It adds that extra layer of bulk that you would normally not have. If I'm playing a Dinobot list that is solely surrounded by Dinobots, there's no way that I won't play Sludge. It is just that good. So you might be asking yourself, how exactly are we getting these extreme bold numbers? Well, you get that way because of these cards. The first on the list is Dino-Chomp. Dino-Chomp is the most important card in your list. And you might look at it in the first part and say, oh, this says scrap your entire hand and doesn't draw cards when you do it. That sounds bad, and you would be what I like to call wrong. This card is insane. Because if you've read the secondary effect, it said it gives one of your Dinobots bold 5. Now, bold 5 means you flip 5 extra cards at the top of your deck. But you can combine that with a card called Jaws of Steel. Jaws of Steel is another Dinobot item that's a utility, and it still gives you bold 2. So that's bold 7. And then you play a card called Power Sword, which gives you bold 3, which increases that to bold 10. And then say you flipped Grimlock to his vehicle mode, giving one of your Dinobots, if not himself, bold 13. That is ridiculous. And mind you, you flip 2 cards just regularly when you attack. So this is 2 cards, bold 13, that's 15 cards. One of those cards is going to be a white pip, which means you're going to flip 2 more cards. That's 17 cards off the top of your deck that you're using to deal extra damage. And that is insane! That's just ridiculous numbers. Now you know why you want to be able to use that extra damage with Grimlock. That combo, whereas sometimes it'll be harder to pull off because you might not draw into these cards, is still, nevertheless, insane. But that's not all the cards you play. No, you also play a fantastic card called Multi-Mission Gear. Now, if you know where I'm going with this, raise your hand, you're going to get a cookie. Sludge is a specialist. That means he can take advantage of cards like Multi-Mission Gear, which, if they are attached to a specialist, is not only an armor, which gives you +1 defense, but is also, if they are attached to a specialist, allows you to play an action from your hand for free. That means if you have a Multi-Mission Gear in your hand, and you don't have a Dino-Chomp, but you have, say, an Inspiring Leadership, where you just get to draw 3 cards, you can play that leadership, draw into the Dino-Chomp, and still play it in the same turn. It is insane value that Sludge is a specialist because he can abuse this card. And I mean abuse. Another card that we have in this list is a very interesting card. I've seen certain people say, man, that card sounds bad, don't even play that card. I can personally say, from my playtesting, that Peace Through Tyranny is a surprisingly good card. It is an overly situational card, and you're more or less playing it just because it has 2 orange pips. But it is a fantastic card when the moment calls for it. So what it does is you have to knock out one of your own characters. Ouch. But after that turn, you take another turn. And that means at the end of everything, when, like, say your opponent's playing tall and they have 2 characters, they're tapped. You have 1 character tapped. You can kill that character just outright, attack with both of your characters, and because everyone's tapped, they untap again, and you get to attack a 3rd time. It's insane. And of course, you're not exactly just attacking again, you're playing a full other turn, which is another upgrade, more actions, perhaps another Dino-Chomp. Peace through Tyranny, whereas situational, is a very good card for lists that can use it. Not every list can use it, but I do know that the ones that can, like tanks, are going to want this card. They're going to need it. Another card that you play is Roll Out. Again, this is another deck that does not have wheels, and you're still rolling out. But roll with me for the moment. Roll Out allows you to transform all of your characters back to vehicle mode, or in this case, Dino mode, and activate all of their abilities. For instance, if this is the only card in your hand, and you transform to Snarl, you're drawing 2. Grimlock, you're giving someone Bolt 3. Sludge moves the damage counters and completely heals one of your characters. Roll Out is a great card, and it's even better that it is never a bad card to flip. It has both an orange pip and a blue pip, and it is fantastic on either a defensive flip or an offensive one. It's just great value out of that card. Finally, we have Drill Arms. Now, Drill Arms is one of my favorite cards coming out of this game. What it does is when it's attached to a character, it's a weapon that gives them +1 attack. But you can use it to scrap one of your opponent's armor, like Force Field. Force Field is one of your nemesis of this deck that caps your damage at 4. If you can use Drill Arms to discard this card attached to one of your opponent's characters, you can have free reign in terms of damage. And even better, it's not a dead card in your hand, because if your opponent doesn't have any armor, you can still attach it and draw a card. It replaces itself. It's just a fantastic value coming out of that card in particular. And you would still play Force Field yourself. This card is a staple in almost every single deck, because you can attach it to one of your weaker characters and pretty much rest assured that they're not going to get KO'd that next turn just because they have a Force Field on them. Of course, your opponent can obviously play Drill Arms, Ramming Speed, certain things that scrap armor, but generally speaking, that character's going to win. In terms of matchups, Dinobots have a very good matchup against things that cannot defend against them. Planes comes to mind because they have very low defense. If you're flipping these with certain amounts of cards and your opponent can't defend against it, they're just going to die. Tanks is an interesting matchup because you could just be walled off by them, but you could just completely outdamage them. It's a very interesting matchup that really comes down to just better play, just in general. But most importantly, anything that you can just one-shot after playing all these cards like the Dino-Chomp, the Power Sword, the Jaws of Steel, anything that you can just knock out cannot win against you. If they can't beat that damage output, they're not going to win. Like, for instance, playing wide with Insecticons or motorcycles, they just can't win against you because they're so fragile that they're going to not be able to stand up to you. A bad matchup would be a card, anything that plays Shockwave. Shockwave is a very good card against Dinobots, and what he does is whenever you scrap a card from your hand, he ends up dealing 1 damage to you as you do. It's only like, so when you play a Dino-Chomp, you discard your entire hand. That could be like 5 cards. That's 5 indirect damage that Shockwave is dealing to you. You don't really like that. And when you discard your hand as part of your central strategy, you like that a lot less. So Shockwave, somewhat befittingly, given his character, is a very good counter to Dinobots. Thank you very much for watching my Dinobot deck profile, and please, if you like this video, please drop a like on it so I know that I'm doing something right. And if you really liked it, please subscribe to my channel and ring that bell icon. Who wouldn't want to know when a new video comes out, right? So, if you'd like, please check out my other videos on this channel because I do gaming stuff, and of course, I do more Transformers trading card game stuff. And as always, I hope you have a good one.